Too loud. All right. So again, Zoom, if you have any questions, please use the chat. Please be muted so that you're not disrupting the class or the session. And then you can raise your hand as well at the end. Yeah, okay. So on to the good stuff. So this is submission 101, submitting your dissertation, thesis, or report to the graduate school. So an overview of what we're going to be doing today, we're going to talk about how you can find any information and help on our website. We're going to talk about preparing for your oral defense and then scheduling your oral defense. And then finally, what do you do after you defend? So if you have any questions, please be sure to email gradschool@mtu.edu. So I have my own personal email, but I might not be here for, a couple of days. Maybe I'm out sick. And so if you have a question about your thesis, Dr. Deb is also on that email, so she could answer it if I'm out of the office for some reason. So we have multiple people. We have several staff members that monitor this. We have some student reviewers that also monitor this email address. So make sure if you have any questions that you're emailing this email and not our personal, because you'll more likely to get a quicker response because we can send it to the right people that need it. I would say the only reason or the only time that you don't want to use this is if you have something that's a little bit more confidential. And then you should email our private emails that maybe you don't want another staff member to see it. But any sort of general questions like, Digital Commons isn't working for me. How do I do this? This email address is definitely the one that you want to use in order to reach out to us. So on our website, we have lots and lots of good information. And as current grad students, I would suggest going to these two tabs on our gradschool.mtu or mtu.edu grad school. So the resources tab, as well as the policies and procedures tabs, have a lot of different resources that are going to be helpful to you while you are trying to finish up. So we have our forms and deadlines. The biggest form that you'll need to do is the report on final exam. You have deadlines and degree completion timelines. And then down here, if you're doing a report, you can click here and you can find the formatting requirements for your report. Or if you have a thesis or a dissertation, that's where you can also find it. So when we're looking at our policies and procedures for our forms and deadlines, again, the main form that you're going to have to worry about is the final exam, the report on the final exam. And whenever you have these forms, the place that how you submit them is through your college or your department. So your advisor and all of your committee members will fill out the form, and then you give this to your either grad director or grad assistant, and then they will submit the form to us. And then we will be able to say, okay, they passed their defense and now they get to go on to the next step. So with all things computers, oftentimes the software that you create something in is the best one to actually try and open it with. So, and that's true for our forms as well. So oftentimes we get students who are saying, oh, this form isn't working, this form isn't working. And it's because when they clicked it opened it into their browser, and then it doesn't download in their browser correctly. So if you download the file itself and then open it in Adobe, which is what we make our forms in, they will actually work much better. So if you think about it, if you do stuff in Excel and then you put it into numbers, it doesn't quite look right. So same thing can be for these forms. So make sure that we are trying to open them in the software that they were created. So PDF and DocX is what we mainly use. And yeah, so online, you can also find the degree completion timeline. So when you are defending for your timeline, you can see all sorts of stuff about scheduling your oral exam, how to submit your draft, how to defend, all these things. And I would recommend just going through them one at a time, not getting overwhelmed by all of the things on the list, but just going one through one, completing your dissertation, making all the required technical corrections and that sort of thing. So we also have a timeline on our website. And then also on our website, we have the graduate student seminars. So this, I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you today. And when you go back home, I'm sure you're not going to be able to digest everything that I told you today. And then in a month, when you're actually trying to do this, you're going to be like, oh, what did Leah say about that thing? I can't remember. And so you can go and find seminars with more information about how to do all of these things that we're talking about today. We also have a degree progress checklist. So this is a really helpful tool that helps you visually see what is required for your degree and what it is that you're missing. You can find this through your experience. And again, if you have any issues, please do email gradschool@mtu.edu, and we can help you find different things that might not be working. So there are things on your checklist that require a human, also known as Leah, to go into your banner and check it as this is received. So if you submit something and you don't get an immediate email, like 5 seconds later, it's because I haven't gone in. And so if you're submitting something on Saturday, I might not be working on Saturday. So don't, get all anxious and overwhelmed if you don't see an immediate, like, oh, this has been checked in and done. I would wait until at least Wednesday before you say, grad school, this thing hasn't been checked off yet, and I submitted it on Friday. We do try and get to them pretty quickly. So if you're waiting for longer than like an extended period of time, then I would reach out, because sometimes some things do go through the cracks. But again, a human does have to physically do several things in this whole process. So just be mindful of that when we're submitting different things. So this is what a checklist looks like. So we have our research training, our patent agreement form, responsible conduct, that sort of thing. And then we have all of our certificates that we could possibly be doing. And also on our checklist, we can say, oh, I've appointed my advisor. I've not yet appointed my committee. So this is a really helpful place to go and see where we are on this list. And it has a list of all of the things that you need to do in order to actually be done and graduate in this semester. So this is what you have specifically for your defense or related to your defense. So 2 weeks before your final exam, you need to notify the graduate school. So we are a public institution, which means that we need to advertise that you have this defense going on. And so you need to notify us 2 weeks in advance. And then we will be taking care of the putting it in Tech Today, emailing it out to people, that sort of thing. And then you also need to submit a dissertation on Canvas, review available on Canvas, all that sort of stuff. So this is what happens before your oral exam. And then this is what happens. We have our report on final exam that happens immediately after you defend. And then after this, we have all of these things. And this is a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming. And so I want to encourage you that, if you're 2 weeks ahead, just make sure that you're doing the things that are 2 weeks ahead. If you've just done your defense, you're just focusing on this. And then after your dissertation and you're trying to submit, this is when we start focusing on these things, okay? So don't get overwhelmed. There are a lot of steps along the way. Just take it one step at a time. So in order to graduate in a given semester, you must schedule your oral exam. So that needs to be done 2 weeks in advance. And then you have to pass your defense. And then you have to complete any corrections. Now, how long does it take to complete those corrections? I have no idea. It could be a day, it could be a year. It really depends on your committee. So I can't tell you how long that is going to take. So you have to complete your corrections that your committee says that you need to do. And then you need to submit your corrected document. So your advisor and committee approved document by Monday at 4 p.m. on week 14, and that's for you to graduate in summer 2026. After you do that, we will go through our final get approval from your advisor, and then we'll also go through and check for formatting and make sure everything is up to our standards. But that can be done after the deadline. It doesn't have to be done before. And then, yeah. So if you have a defense that's after Monday, week 14, that's okay. Defenses happen at different times. It doesn't have to happen by that deadline. That just means that you are not going to be finishing in summer 2026. And again, we just need to know what your schedule is in terms of defending 2 weeks in advance, or 2 weeks in advance from your defense. We need to know about it. And then that just means that, you know, if you're defending on Monday, week 14, and you get your corrections all done the Tuesday, that just means that you're going to be graduating in fall 2026, not summer 2026. But the benefit of defending before the semester is complete, you get a reduced amount of tuition that you have to pay. So for full-time PhD students, you can have reduced credit like tuition. And yeah, that's only for if we are in the grace, or if you have a terminal degree. So if you are a master's student and you're going to go on to get your PhD here, then this doesn't apply to you. You'll still be enrolled as a full-time student because you're just going on to get your PhD. Yeah. So this is a sample question.
Yeah, on the if you don't mind, on the last one, so if you have your defense in say week 14 and your corrections are going to take longer than say week 15, your graduation then gets pushed back to the next semester.
So I have a slide that has all of the different timelines with exact dates so that you can figure that out a little bit. So we'll get to that, okay? So this is a sample timeline, and this is not set in stone. This is not, oh, Leah says this, and so I'm very, very far behind. But all of these things take a lot of time. It's not just, oh, I submitted my first draft and then boom, it's done. We're going to require several revisions and rounds with your advisor. So if we're in week 4 right now of this, or we're 3.5, week 3.5. So at this point, according to this, in order to be done by around week 14, we should be giving our first draft to our advisor, because right, we have week 10 down here. So, you know, we should be on our way to submitting a first draft to our advisor or working on our revisions from our draft. And then we have a second draft. And then again, we have that 2-week buffer where we have to know about your defense and advertise. And then we always say, you know, again, we don't know how long corrections take after you defend. It might take a very long time, but it might also just be a couple weeks. So make sure that we're factoring in that buffer time for after our defense. So we're not defending on the deadline day and expecting to submit on the deadline day, right? Okay, so I need to finish my degree by insert your date here. When should you defend? Well, I have no idea when you should defend. I would say that around 6 weeks is a good guess, but that's not set in stone again, because you might have major revisions that you have to do to your document, and that will take longer than 6 weeks. On average, it takes about 4 weeks, but again, it can range quite a bit on either end. It could be a year, it could be a day. So make sure that we are kind of thinking about that in terms of when we're trying to finish up. If we're trying to finish up in summer, like making sure we're thinking about this isn't a one-time thing that we're just done all of a sudden, right? We have many versions of this that we have to go through. So on average, it takes 1 to 2 weeks for the graduate school to review and approve your final document, because we have our formatting stuff that we also have to do on our end. And so making sure that we are allowing for time for formatting reviews is also something that we want to be cognizant of. Okay, so we're moving on to scheduling our final oral examination. So scheduling with your committee can actually be something that's not an easy task. Professors are busy, so finding a time that all of them can meet for 2 hours or so could be a difficult thing. So trying to find a day and a time that everybody is available. 2 hours again is the standard length of time, but some advisors want more or less. So make sure that you're talking with your advisor and setting up this what time that you need. You should work with your program, with like your department, to find a room that is available during that time that you're trying to schedule your defense. And you can also set up a Zoom meeting if you would like. But if you do a Zoom meeting, it has to be so that passwords are not allowed for your Zoom meeting. And that's because we have our advertisement in Tech Today. And so how do we advertise for your Zoom meeting without also giving the password at the same time? So, and then that just kind of nullifies the reason of having a password in the first place. So if you want to control who's coming in and out of your Zoom room during your defense, because maybe you're like, oh, I don't want this competitor to come and see what I'm doing here. You can have a waiting room and have somebody, manually say yes, no to people and admit them as they come in. But again, no passwords. And again, you do need to notify the graduate school of any of your defense details at least 2 weeks in a row or in advance so that we can properly advertise for your defense. So these are the things that you need before your defense. So again, we're notifying us about the exam date, time, and location. We also have submitting our dissertation to Canvas and to your committee. So your committee is going to want to review your document well before your exam so that they can have questions and know what they're running into. And so 2 weeks is the standard time for that. I'll go over in a little bit how to submit via Canvas. But what we do with that is that we go and we look through your document and say, oh, these formatting things need to change from this version to your final version. And once we complete our review, we will also upload it so that you can go and see any edits that you need to make as well. So those are the 3 main things that need to happen before your defense. So this is what the defense scheduling form looks like to you. So you can select your degree at the top of the page, and then your degree information can be reviewed, including your advisor and your committee. You can also, so the scheduling request can be submitted before your committee is updated. So if you have like a committee member that's maybe in or out, you can still submit this and then update that at a later point. So we also need to have a title for your defense. This is just 1 line right now. I think it's 60 characters per line. You can have up to 4 lines. If it doesn't fit in 4 lines, then you'll need to kind of reword your title so that it will fit into those 4 lines. We have our date of our defense, the time with the location, and then the room number. And then this is where you would put that Zoom link if you would like to. But also, please note that sometimes students start filling in this form and then they're like, oh wait, I have to go and find and schedule all these things. And then they try and go back to the form and then it will give them an error and timeout. Just try it. If you get an error, just try it again and then it will usually work. And when it does work, you should be getting an email that says, or you should get to this page that just confirms that you've scheduled your oral defense. So after your request is submitted, your advisor goes and accepts or says that this is an okay time for us to have this defense. So if you don't get an email and your advisor doesn't get an email, then maybe you didn't submit the form correctly. And so I would suggest going and trying to submit it again. You should get an email that says, that confirms that we got that. So once the advisor receives that request, they will get an email that says, hey, do you confirm this? Do you confirm this? I highly recommend that you follow up with your advisor and say, hey, can you go and confirm that? Advisors have lots of stuff on their plate, and so they might forget to do that. And that is a very important step. So make sure that they are going in and saying yes to that. And then once your advisor says yes or no, you will receive an email for that. Most advisors say yes, although sometimes they do say no because, oh, this thing actually came up and we want to change it for some reason. But you should be in communication with your advisor so that you are aware about all of those different things. So again, this is the advisor. They can approve or reject. Yeah, they can also say, oh, I reject this because there's some sort of typographical error and I want them to go in and fix it. Just make sure that you're working with your advisor to make sure that the timing of your oral defense is okay with them. If your defense does get rejected, you will get an email notification that it wasn't approved. And it's sent to your committee, the student, the graduate school, and your advisor. And when I say that it's sent to the committee, we have most of your committee members' emails. If they are on campus, like if they're an MTU person, then we have their email. But if you have somebody that's offline, like, maybe you have somebody from the DNR that you wanted, and maybe they gave us an email, but it's a broken email and it's not working. I would just make sure that you're following up with your committee members that aren't Michigan Tech people to make sure that they are receiving our emails. You can then, if it gets rejected, you can resubmit your request, and then all of the information that you previously put in there, so like the title and all that stuff, will stay, and then you can just edit the things that need to be changed according to your advisor. And again, if you get it approved, it will email all of those people. Again, make sure your committee members that are off campus are receiving our emails. Once it's submitted and approved, the only way to change something is by emailing the graduate school. So gradschool@mtu.edu. Make sure if you want to, change the location of your defense, make sure that you're emailing us with any changes that you want to make. You can't go into the form and just change it there. You do have to email us. Again, your committee is expecting to receive that dissertation or thesis or report 2 weeks in advance. And that's because they need to have that 2 weeks to read through it. Some of these documents are very long. So make sure that you are sending it to your committee, but your committee is actually the ones that are responsible to make sure that they receive everything with enough time to review it. Okay? But for our responsibilities, we have to make sure that your graduate application has been submitted, your committee has been properly appointed, that you have registered for classes appropriately, that all of these things have been received before you announce it. So we're doing a lot of stuff on our end as well. And we are also making sure that the defenses are announced in the events calendar, Tech Today, and yeah, we provide a list of defenses that are going on to your department as well. So Michigan Tech employees may not be notified of, non-Michigan Tech employees may not be notified. So again, please make sure that you contact them as needed. And also, a non-Michigan Tech employee cannot approve things. So your advisor needs to be, the person that is signing off on your document needs to be a Michigan Tech employee. So your number one person advisor cannot be somebody that's off of Michigan Tech's campus. So make sure that we are appointing these people as soon as possible. So if the committee changes after the request, they will need to be notified separately as well, okay? So Now we're gonna kind of change gears a little bit here and talk about submitting your pre-defense dissertation, thesis, or report, and the steps that you have to do in order to do that. So for our pre-defense document, we are going to go onto Canvas. We log into Canvas, log in with your MTU credentials, and on Canvas, you will find a course that says graduate candidates. And sometimes students hide these because it's not applicable to that semester. So you can go and find it in your hidden courses sometimes. But the course that you want is graduate candidates. And from there, you will see 3 different options for submitting an assignment: a master's student report, a thesis, and a dissertation. And that is where we are going to be submitting our pre-defense documents. So, sorry. Make sure that you are, the links will take you to our online instructions for after your defense. So this is just your pre-defense submission, right? This is not where we're submitting our post-defense stuff as well. So once you submit your document here, it sends an email notification to us, and then we say, okay, the student has submitted a pre-defense submission, and we are going to go through and we're going to start, doing our formatting review of it. Make sure that we are reading the instructions to submit an assignment, and then we're doing this again 2 weeks before our submission. And then once you are trying to upload it, you can browse to find the file, click add more than one file. So if you add files that are not part of your document, so if you have like a spreadsheet that's like a supplemental material, we don't look at your supplemental material. We are only looking at your document. So that's the only one that we need to review the formatting for. And then, so we will only review one draft of your pre-defense document. And that's because these reviews take a significant amount of time and we don't have the resources to go through it every single time. So when you are submitting your pre-defense document, I would make sure that we're submitting something that is actually, close to what you think it might be, because then we'll be able to give you better feedback. But if you submit on, Saturday, and then you work on it for another day and a half and you say, actually, I really want them to look at this version instead, you can just resubmit the assignment on Canvas as well. We will look at the latest draft, but it will put you lower on the list in terms of we do it as first come, first serve. So it's whatever your latest draft is, that's the document that will put you in the line for getting a review back to you. But you are welcome to resubmit. We don't look at the technical content of any of your stuff. We are not looking at the technical anything. We are looking at your margins and your page numbers and that sort of thing. So if you make significant changes to your document and you want to resubmit, but they're all technical changes, you don't need to submit that version to us because we, again, are not looking at your technical details. But if you went through and you're like, oh, I changed all of these headings and I reformatted all of this different stuff and I changed, my page order and all these different things that are more formatting changes, then you are welcome to resubmit for sure. So once we give you your review, you'll be able to find it on Canvas to view a document. So every time that we review your document, your assignment, we will have a review form that we fill out, and it says, oh, you need to check your title page, and then it will have a text box of all the different things that you need to change on your title page, and it will have your name and then some sort of code at the end that we use internally so that we can differentiate between the documents. So you don't have to worry about that, but this is that review file, that PDF is where you will find the things that we say that, oh, you might need to change these different things. Again, we need 6 business days to make all of our, to review everything. It doesn't always take 6 business days, but towards the end of the semester, everybody's deciding to submit on the same day. So it might actually take us up to 6 business days. So make sure that you're allowing that and budgeting that into your time as well. So what do I do after I received my review? Well, we have a lot of stuff probably in that review. And so I would make sure that you go through and you read everything. We also have the guide and it will select different things that, one second, it will, in our review, we'll say, oh, go see this section of the guide. And then you can go and see that section. And we try and leave helpful comments throughout it. We also have our blog, which helps that we've updated with different formatting things and that sort of thing. And so you can go and use those resources to help you make those changes to your documents. And I would make sure if you are not sure about what we are asking for that change, make sure you ask us, because it would be terrible for you to go and spend like an hour making all of these different changes. And then you turn it in at the post defense, and then it turns out that isn't what we wanted at all, and you did it wrong, and then you have to go and do it all again, right? So make sure that you're asking questions if what we are asking for is not clear to you. Yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's about this. Like once I get the review and then I read everything and I ask questions, like do I have to resubmit and then you will have to
No.
check it everything, or?
So we do every pre-submission once. We will not look at your pre-submission again. And that's because we don't have the capacity to look at your pre-submission. So we will do exactly one review for you for your pre-defense document. Your post-defense, I hope that we only do one, but we're probably going to do more. So on to after the oral defense. So to graduate in summer 2026, you need to submit your final document by 4 p.m. on August 3rd. Okay, so that needs to be your advisor approved document needs to be submitted by August 3rd. We also need to have your report on final examination. And in order to submit your final document, everybody needs to submit a document onto Digital Commons. So Digital Commons is the repository for Michigan Tech documents. That's like our libraries system. If you have a thesis or a dissertation, you also need to submit to ProQuest. So your dissertation, your advisor will go through Digital Commons to approve that document. That approval does not need to be submitted by that deadline. And that's because if you submit at 3:59 on August 3rd, that would only give your advisor like a minute to do that approval. So your advisor gets a couple days to do that approval. And we review all of the submissions to Digital Commons and to ProQuest. We go through quite a detailed list to make sure everything is looking okay before we release it to the public. So ProQuest, again, is required for thesis and dissertations. You can find it through this website. We log in with our MTU credentials. And there are different publishing options. Traditional publishing is free, and it's our minimum requirements. But if you would like to have open access, it does come with a fee, but it gives you a lot more options in terms of like copyright and that sort of thing, which we can talk about more in our next session. So after the oral defense, on your checklist, you will see if you have it. So this is for a dissertation. So they have to submit through Digital Commons and they have to submit through ProQuest. And then once you do that, we will assign it to your advisor to approve it. They approve it, and then we do our formatting review. And then once our formatting review is done, then it's finally accepted and ready to go. So this is how you submit to Digital Commons. We will be sending this link to you, or this link is in our stuff that we send to you after you do your pre-submission. And there's also a link to the submission area on the degree progress checklist and on our website. So there are many places to go and access Digital Commons. And once you're there, you want to go and sit hit submit new research. We do not want you to create a new account. Again, this is linked to Michigan Tech. So we want you to log in with your Michigan Tech ID and your password. And then from there, you'll be sent to something that says, here's a publishing agreement. I would read through all of that. And before you need to read through all of this and then hit that you agree in order to continue. And then you'll be able to go and start entering in things into your, for your document. So we have our title, authors that we have. In Digital Commons, we also have options for different types of publishing. So Campus is more localized. Open is the entire world can see it. So that's something to think about. And that's also something to talk to your advisor about, what kind of publishing that you want to have. So we want to make sure that if we're submitting a master's report, we are selecting a master's report, not a master's thesis or a PhD dissertation. And we will be updating this according to what your advisor would like us to do as well. So open access, again, is for anyone in the world to be able to access your document. If you do open access, you can also then select a Creative Commons license. And then on ProQuest, you can do either tradition or open access. Versus if you do campus access on Digital Commons, anyone with Michigan Tech credentials, they are the ones that are going to be able to see it. You will not be able to have a Creative Commons license. So some disciplines, specifically like biology, often want a Creative Commons license. It's not very common for other disciplines to want them. So these are all different things that you should be talking about with your advisor, these different options, so that you guys can know which kind of publishing you want to select before you start trying to do this all in Digital Commons. So there are a few different types of Creative Commons licenses. The library is a great resource to go and find and figure out the differences between all of these things. So if this is something that you want to opt into, make sure that you are going out and talking to the library to figure out which one that you would like to do. Again, also talking with your advisor. So these are the 6 that we have available to our students. So students also ask about embargoes a lot. So embargo is, well, your dissertation is done and it's over with, and you are graduated, but it's not published online for that certain amount of time. So Digital Commons and ProQuest will have the title of your dissertation or thesis or report available, as well as the abstract. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you don't want published online is not in your abstract, right? Because that will be published immediately. But everything else in the document will be hidden for a certain amount of time. An embargo. So an embargo of up to a year is okay. Anything longer than a year, we will need to get the dean's approval. A lot of times students say, oh, well, I want to publish to this journal or that journal, but most journals don't care if this has already been published in your dissertation. And so if you want something longer than that, then we are going to need a specific journal article saying, no, this can't be submitted and it's a dissertation prior to being submitted in our journal. And so we need that specific language. But most of the time, journal articles do not care. So you don't need to necessarily get that embargo. So if you don't need an embargo, you can just leave it blank. Again, longer than a year, we will need it reviewed by the dean. And if you submit it on Digital Commons and on ProQuest, we will make sure that those dates are aligning and that they are the same. So also, students often have supplemental information or content like a giant spreadsheet of all their data that can be submitted when we are doing supplemental files. Please note that we do not cover those in terms of formatting. Those can be any format that you would like. So, So after you submit to Digital Commons, we go in and we manually assign your advisor to be the one that reviews your work. This is generally done during business hours. So again, manual clicks have to be done. So if you submit at, 7 p.m., we will not be giving it to your advisor until probably the next business day. And so make sure that you're thinking about that in terms of, all of these different things have timing limits. So after your advisor approves a submission, the grad school goes in and does their formatting review. And then we will also review your ProQuest if you have that for the thesis and dissertations. If your advisor requires revisions, then you will get an email from your advisor with the instructions, and you can revise and resubmit, and then they'll have to re-review it. Please note that if you submit on deadline day and then your advisor says, actually, no, you didn't do this whole thing, we don't approve this, that's going to kick you out into the grace period essentially, and you will no longer be in that window. So make sure that you're getting all those things done before you submit. So as promised, here's more timelines. So in order to submit this semester, your post-defense, your final document needs to be submitted by August 3rd at 4 p.m. After that, we will give you our review by August 11th at the very latest. If you are if you then resubmit a revision by August 14th, then you will still be graduating in this semester. But if you are unable to do all of those revisions that we require in terms of formatting, then you will be accepted and done, but you will be completing in the next semester. That pushes you into the next semester. So if your document requires revision, you will receive an email from Digital Commons that says, hey, you need to revise this. Once you do all your revisions, make sure you're resubmitting it to Digital Commons. Please do not create a new submissions. It's very important that you just, update that first one. It creates a whole lot of issues on our end if you try and create a new one. So then once you resubmit, then you have to, again, wait for your review. So it does take us a while to do those revisions and those reviews. So make sure that we're putting that cushion in at the end of the semester. So we will be emailing you when your review is done. When we send you an email, we'll be sending you an attachment that will look something, it will have your name and like a review file. You can go and it will be that same review file from your pre-defense, and you can go and you can open it and see the different changes that you need to make. And so that's where you find your different directions. So if we request a revision and you submit it by August 14th, then you will be able to complete your degree in this semester. But if you can't do that revision that we need you to complete by August 14th, then you will be enrolled into UN 5951, which we will automatically do for you. And well, this is only if you're a terminal degree. So again, if you are a master's student continuing on to your PhD, this does not apply to you. And then you'll have to pay a resubmission fee, which is around $350. Then you'll complete your degree in fall of 2026. But you don't have to enroll as a full-time student. So when your document is accepted in the grace period, anytime, we will bill you for any fees that are due. Your document will not be fully accepted until all of your fees are paid, and you will not graduate until all of your fees are paid. So make sure you pay those fees. If you don't have any fees due, then your document will be accepted and you will be able to see all of these different items on your degree checklist as well. So for the grace period for your submission, it begins the Tuesday after our original deadline. August 3rd. And it ends the Wednesday before classes start, which I think is August 26th this year. And then we will review all of the submissions after that. And if everything's okay and meets all of our standards, then you'll be enrolled in UN 59151. And then we'll publish it early into the fall semester. So this is for the grace period. It starts on August 4th and it ends on August 26th. If you submit during this time, then you'll only have to pay $350-ish. And then again, we do our revisions or our reviews after that. But if you submit after this August 26th deadline, then you'll have to enroll as a full-time student in the fall. So in order to graduate, graduate students must enroll every fall and spring until they complete their degree. Since we are in the summer, I believe that we also have to register the semester that we are intending to submit. So you guys should be registered. If you're planning on submitting in the summer and finishing in the summer, then you need to be registered during this summer as well. So for 2 semesters after you successfully defend, you can be full-time, but with reduced registration. So that's a nice bonus if you're hoping to save some money on tuition as well. And with all of this, it's best to remember that the best dissertation and best thesis and best report is one that is finished. So you will go back and you will say, oh, there's a typo and oh, this looks wonky and I hate this thing, but it's okay because it's over with and that is all that matters, right? So congratulations to you all. If you're here, that means that you're almost done. So brava. And yeah, so that's all we have for today. We have about 10 minutes before our formatting 101 is going to start. And so with that, I can answer any questions that you guys might still have. Or we can get a nice 10. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question on timelines with reformatting. So if I defend, integrate all of the comments from my committee and from the formatting comments of the university and submit by that August 3rd deadline, and then receive comments back by the 11th and integrate those on by the 14th and have that resubmitted, but that is not accepted. Am I then into the grace period?
So when we are saying that, oh, you need to submit this document by this date, that is your advisor approved copy of that, right? And so if you submit and your advisor says, yes, this is fine, then you go into our pool that we're working on your formatting revisions. And your formatting revisions just need to be done by August 14th,
Okay.
And then you'll graduate in the summer. So, you know, a lot of students wait until the deadline day to submit, but we do our revisions we do our reviews in the order in which they come. So if you submit 2 days before the deadline, we will get to your, reviewing yours a lot quicker, which means that you will have more time to implement any of those review changes or those formatting changes that we require. So you're going to be a lot less stressed in meeting that August 14th deadline of this is when everything has to be done, right? Deb, yeah.
Yeah, I think what I heard you saying though is if it's not accepted, so that you submit something on August 14th, you think you've done everything and it's still not accepted, then you'll roll into a fall graduate.
Okay.
And you'll it's technically the grace period, resubmission period.
Okay,
whatever.
so it's still that UN
Yes, if
number
you're in
with
a
the
terminal
lower.
degree, you'll be in UN 5951 and
Okay.
you'll have the whole semester to work on those changes, so there's no need to stress about that. You'll have until the deadline for fall semester, which is Monday to week 14 of that semester.
Yes.
So no need to stress about it. You've got plenty of time and a reduced cost way to finish.
But the sooner you get your post-defense document into us, the sooner we get to review your document and the sooner you get to have, the
Even
more
before
time you get
noon
to
is
have.
Good.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Even before noon is good.
Yeah. I mean, people submit at 4 p.m. on the deadline day. So the sooner, if you could just do 24 hours, you will be like top 10 probably in the line and you will get to you a lot faster than if you submit at the deadline on the time that it is. Okay?
There's a student with a hand raised, Leah, in the online.
Hi. Yeah, my question is kind of related to that. So, yeah, I understand all the deadlines and you did a great job. So thanks for that. But my question is, what marks completion? So let's say I have a job lined up, let's say starting the first week of August or something. So if my advisor approves everything by, let's say, the August 3rd, I submit everything and he approves, and I'm still pending the formatting review from the grad school. Am I considered complete at that point, or what marks completion? That's I know
So-
it would depend on the employer as well, but in general.
So you are considered completed when your draft has been accepted by the graduate school, your fees have all been paid, and all of the forms that we need have also been completed. You don't have a graduation date until the end of August, so, but we can give you a preliminary, I think it is like a paper that says, okay, they've met all of the things, they just haven't graduated because we haven't had the end of our semester yet. But in order to get that piece of paper, you do need to have all three of those things completed.
Okay, so
And if I could add, you'll see on your academic audit whether or not your degree is complete, and there'll be things that need to be checked off. PhD students in particular need to complete the survey of earned doctorates, which is often missed. And, doing that sometime earlier in August would be better so that you're ready to go better.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
I know we're talking a lot about week 14, but can you have your defense in week 4?
You
to
can
get everything
defend
done by,
whatever you want, and
week
if you
12.
defend on week 4, you'll be so much happier than if you defend on week, 14 or 10 or where, it's the sooner the better in terms of, because you can have this all submitted by July. It doesn't have to be submitted in August, right? And so you can have all of that done and just be at your leisure for the last month and a half. So. Any other questions? All right, awesome. I am going to go take a quick break, give my voice a little bit of a break before we go into formatting 101, where I will talk about all of the different things that we need to be thinking about in terms of formatting. Right.
So is that
The proposal,
Yeah.
that's all in your department.
Yeah, I know.